movie lighthouse, shining a light through the fog of film.
Lighthouse.
My name's James.
I'm Nico.
I'm Laurie.
And I'm Wyndham.
Hello guys, how are we doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Pretty good, thank you.
Yeah, show number 2.
Halloween special.
It's exciting, isn't it?
We're on a roll now.
It's exactly one month since we did the last one, so I'm glad we've all made it through the month, and here we are.
Yeah.
Back and ready to do another show.
Everyone had a good week?
Yeah,
Pretty good, thank
right.
you.
Yeah, it's been alright. Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm conscious though that in this month we've got to cover quite a lot here.
We do have a lot to
Yeah.
get through, and we've got to keep moving on, yeah?
Yeah.
All
Fast paced, choppy, cover.
So we were just talking. We watched Halloween 3 again last night, didn't we?
We did, but this actually in itself would be a Halloween special, right?
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah, happy Halloween, everyone.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween.
Is there things that we can drop in that Halloween special?
Well, there you go.
I think what I'm going to do is just edit that bit out and splice it in every 30 seconds.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Bit of a soundbite. Alright, so let's get going then. Shall we have a bit of news?
Hang on, before we have a bit of news, can we all just at the same time go Halloween special
I
together?
reckon.
1, 2, 3.
Halloween special.
Wonderful.
Great.
Alright, so who's got some news for us?
It's a bit serious, but I think we can't do a movie podcast in the current climate without at least mentioning Harvey Weinstein.
As a Halloween special as well, I think that's quite appropriate.
Yeah,
right,
and
isn't it?
actually, it kind of it does tie because clearly, absolutely horrific. All these allegations coming out,
Allegedly.
but nobody's surprised, right? We're not surprised. The whole concept of a casting couch
Yeah.
is established. Everybody kind of knows about it, and it kind of just, for me, it can't only be Harvey Weinstein. He's the one who's going to get buried by this
First.
Yeah.
but it just
First.
needs to be pushed now.
Yeah.
And everybody to be called out.
I think it would be like the kind of BBC pedo thing that was going on. Okay, we're having a serious chat here, and it's not really in the light of what Lighthouse is all about. But you know how just one thing unfolded after another with the BBC a few years ago, and I kind of have a feeling Hollywood's going to get a taste of that quite soon. I'm sure you're right. It's completely endemic, and I'm sure the delightful Mr. Weinstein, who turns out to be an angelic character, is not the only one. You know,
Allegedly.
That's right. When I say the only one, I'm not saying the only one who's been doing these things. I'm saying the only one with allegations waiting to come out, because it's not alleged that there are these allegations. The allegations are there.
Yeah.
and he's just denied non-consensual sex, not sexual harassment. So he's effectively copped to inappropriate behaviour. He's just contesting. He's saying he never raped anybody, and they're all saying yes, you did. So he's kind of copped to that, and there will be lots and lots of other, as you say, lots of other allegations waiting in courts and that kind of stuff. But one of the reasons I wanted to raise it was I've been watching a lot of films since we last met, and a lot of them are rubbish. I've done a lot of the good, groundwork for these should be avoided at all costs. But the level of just endemic sexism and the way characters behave to women and all that kind of stuff in almost all films, when this kind of stuff comes out, you start watching it with your eyes a little bit more widely open, and you start thinking, holy shit, this is awful. But as a guy who thinks he's relatively enlightened, it takes something like this to really
I
open
think
your
as
eyes to
well, it's when you don't notice these kind of things that it's more of a problem. And I think, in a way, all of these things coming out of the woodwork, we're going to start looking at it a bit more and going, oh, right, how did that happen? And it is certainly part of the solution. I don't think there is a simple solution for that kind of sexism in the industry, but it's definitely part of the solution is to get it all out in the open.
Yeah.
And I do think with these things unravelling, okay, some people's it's going to, there might be people that are falsely accused, or there might be people that come out of the woodwork, because once people start getting money in courts for these things, it attracts a certain kind of person. However, there are some people that have been treated absolutely horribly by the industry, I'm sure, and the more of that does come out of the woodwork, I do think it's going to be a pretty positive thing, hopefully making that industry a slightly better industry for particularly for young women who are trying to start out in the business.
Well, let's hope that justice is going to be done. and people
that-
get what they deserve.
On that
As
upbeat
a-
first note,
Halloween!
Well, before we do news, I just want to thank everybody for the comments we've been getting. We have been getting some comments about our last podcast.
Yeah.
We got a message from a chicken Cassandra who has told us that we definitely have to watch a film called The Last Unicorn, which is some sort of animation. I thought maybe we could look at that maybe at Christmas.
and this is Chicken Cassandra.
It is.
Chicken Cassandra,
So thank you for your
I know her
comments.
well, actually.
Oh, okay.
I know of her.
Don't make out that we know the people who are writing in.
Okay.
Does it make it
Just
sound like
that-
we've just asked them to write in?
Yeah, these are like strangers. But
What you're saying is you have a stalker, basically.
Yeah.
Does she have a quarter? No.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. Anyway, so let's do a bit of news. I've got a bit of news. Anyone seen the Star Wars trailer?
No.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Do you
Yeah.
like-
What do you reckon? Come on.
Right. Well, I'm going to say something slightly controversial.
Go on, then.
I think I'm over Star Wars.
Oh my god.
Well, I kind of right. I enjoyed the last film, not the like, one in between. You know, the proper last film. What's it called?
Force
Right.
Awakens.
Force
So you didn't
Awakens.
like Rogue One?
I thought it was- yeah, I did like Rogue One, but if we're just talking about like the main films, it was all right. It was great, but it was just like a bit of a remake, and I just don't know if I can be bothered now.
Yeah.
It's like it's all been done before. You
Yeah.
know, is Luke Skywalker going to be evil or not?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
really
yeah.
care.
So that's very, very good point, isn't it? Because this is an obvious fact, but we really are in that time of anything, any sizable release that's coming out is either a
sounds really
remake. What?
Sizable
Sizable
release.
release.
Come on! Well, it is a Sunday. It was a big night. Right. So, but any like big film release
Thank you.
is either a remake or already
tie-in
an
of some
established
kind or-
franchise,
Yeah.
this, that, and the other, and then going back to those. I'm sorry, I do harp on about the good old days, but you really had that time of the 70s. They were really blessed back then in the early 80s. These brand new original ideas coming out of nowhere. People going into a cinema. What was Terminator all about then? Bloody hell, kind of thing. And then Alien. What's all that about? Aliens. Oh, I like a bit of sci-fi. Bloody hell, out
They
of
only showed these in
nowhere.
the East End of London.
These great films, and I might be wrong. I should be maybe sniffing in more corners, this, that, and the other. But at the moment, anything that's that's coming out, that's kind of that's got anything behind it is already kind of established.
Yeah, make
Blade
some new
Runner
films,
again.
people.
As I said, there's a lot to cover. Blade Runner's just come out. That Blade 2049, whatever it's called. That's a big deal. But it's already.
So who's been to see Blade Runner?
I
I
saw
have.
it just last week actually.
Yeah, I saw it as well.
Have you been to see it, Laurie?
Right, back to the trailer on Star Wars. Just very, very quickly. It sort of implies that Rey and Kylo could be sister and brother.
Could it?
Yeah. Okay. Blade Runner. Let's go. Come on. Come on.
And is that a problem if they are?
Well, I don't
Because
know.
I'm like you,
They
James. I don't
they
think I
probably
really
wouldn't
care.
be-
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't be that obvious, would they? They wouldn't put something like
No, it would
plot
be a
twist in the
misleading.
trailer.
You would
you're
hope
right.
it's a misleading.
Yeah, but I think
piece of
I think it looks great. Good family, wholesome fun. So I'm still completely signed up, as you can
Okay.
probably tell.
I will tell you my thoughts on that. I've not seen the trailer. I don't care what happens with the plot. The fact is, I'm going to sit in a cinema for an hour and a half, 2 hours, however long it is, in the world of Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's enough.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying, okay, let me just clarify that. The 3 prequels were not enough.
They were
I
awful.
really think that has to be said. However, just time spent in that world,
Yeah.
being 9 again, fucking brilliant.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
actually.
Well, Laurie just has to go into his garage to do that.
Yeah.
Because he's been stockpiling Star Wars toys for his son's. Oh, is it a secret?
It's a secret for Christmas, isn't
A
it?
secret.
He's not going to
Is he
listen
gonna
to
be
this
listening?
podcast.
They're the nice ones, though. They're the black series. If anyone... Yeah, anyway, yeah.
And how much has he spent so far? 500 quid?
No.
Who are these presents actually for?
No, exactly, of course.
So he's going to go home and found his garage has been robbed now.
Alright, Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the
big
first one.
So-
Don't see what the whole point of it is, really.
So you're
So
a
I've got a
very
view.
interesting guinea pig. So when I'd love you to go and see this new release actually and get your kind of opinion from it before you even see.
So
it.
have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Alright, so Nico, Win, what do you reckon?
Personally, I absolutely loved it. I really loved it.
Oh,
I was a huge fan of Blade Runner, and there's a bit where I don't want to give too
No,
much
you can't
away.
give
No
anything
spoilers. There's just a character reappearing, and we've seen all of this characters reappearing with CGI and all this kind of crap. But it was just, I felt it was really moving, and I've heard it being lambasted and called a bit cheesy, and the actress involved wasn't happy with it, and I just was so blown away when this character walked onto the screen, and it was, oh my god, it's I won't say, but I've probably, for anyone who's seen Blade Runner, you probably know, and not seen the sequel, you probably know exactly who and what I'm talking about.
Wakawa?
It was exactly, yeah, when she was wearing that.
So I have a slightly different view. I think it's a beautiful looking film. It's a proper visual. Wow, this looks amazing.
Yeah,
and I think it's the casting's good. I think what's his name, Ryan Gosling does a really good job.
Just for any ladies that are listening to this, sorry to interrupt. I'm sitting here opposite Wyndham, and I think it's fair to say that Wyndham does look a little bit like Ryan Gosling.
Oh dear, that's funny.
Yeah, it's like yeah.
But for me, it was it is a good way to spend a couple of hours. But is my life materially impacted from it? No,
right.
I don't think so. There's some really clever bits. The use of music is really or tone rather than music. So there's through large stretches of it, there's just this really uncomfortable acoustic going on, and it physically makes you uncomfortable while you're watching it. So it's a really interesting watch.
Yeah.
But I wasn't such a massive fan of the original, but
I think because the Blade Runner was such an absolute complete work of art, they kind of had to really go to town on this. They could not kind of really mess this up. So when you talk about the sound, there would have been tons of thought put into that.
Absolutely.
The design of it, obviously, again, tons and tons of thought put into that. And I was aware that the director and the designer kind of locked themselves away for like almost a year, and it was literally just the look of it, the design of it would actually sort of dictate kind of what the story would be. And where the first film, you really got that information when you look at the the scenery and the landscape, you get so much rich information about what these people are, what their life must be, just by the design of it. Whereas a lot of films since that have kind of tried to copy the original Blade Runner, you have like Total Recall, what's the guy, Irish guy, there was a remake Colin Farrell, that you've got it's like Blade Runner. They're obviously ripping off Blade Runner, but when you actually look at the design of it, there's no sort of substance. You don't get any information from it. It's just
thick, isn't it?
Fluff, and gump. And that's what I've heard about this one. That sort of the design and stuff that you see there is really rich and informative. So that's what a lot of the old fans have really, really celebrated. But I think there's that. Obviously, the first film, you've got that really sort of deep, like you mentioned in the previous podcast, that whole sort of I am, I live, I want to live thing.
Yeah.
So I imagine they're doing kind of that kind of stuff again, but maybe a different line.
So tune in next month, guys, when Laurie's going to review another film that he hasn't actually
seen. I haven't actually even seen. No. Oh goodness me! Are they covering that kind of stuff?
Do you know, it's different deep questions, but it certainly does. Yeah, it certainly ticks those boxes. Also, in some ways, the conclusions of the original film are not really overtly expressed, especially if you watch the director's cut and you don't go straight into the version with the cheesy voiceover.
I love the voiceover.
With the wonderful voiceover. So that there's something slightly vague about it. You're left wondering until fairly late on. What is the status of Deckard? Is he a replicant, or is he this confused guy? What's actually going on there? And this is much clearer. What's going on here?
Right.
But at the same time, it's asking us a little bit: at what point is something genuinely alive when it has some form of consciousness? And that gets you thinking about what do you mean that? Define what you mean by conscious. Define what it means to be alive. So, even though in this way it's not answering those questions, it's posing some pretty big questions.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it does a nice job of nodding to the original in some of the sequences. They're not exact rip-offs of the original, but you can see that they've kind of gone, actually, it'd be really cool if we took did a version of this for the new film. So it plays. It's worth watching, definitely.
All right,
I think
good
I've changed
stuff.
my opinion on it, actually. It was a great film.
Yeah.
Halloween special.
All right, let's move on. Bit more news. Anyone seen the new Star Trek series?
Yes.
I have, yeah.
I have.
Star Trek Discovery. I've been watching them.
Yeah.
Laurie?
No, but I've heard
So,
they
what do you
chuck-
think?
Well, what I think. This is what I think. They chuck the F word in there.
They do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's not Star Trek.
It's a bit more realistic, though, isn't it?
You're
having your arse shut.
I'm enjoyed it.
So I struggled through the first episode.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think there was any charisma amongst any of the characters.
Well, they killed them all off. Oh, spoiler.
But since then, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think the fact that is it Isaacs?
Yeah, Jason Isaacs.
Jason Isaacs, I think he's brilliant in almost everything he does. So
like
having
Jason
him
Isaacs, by the way.
I quite like it. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's growing on me.
Remind me of Jason Isaacs. Is he the...
He's a captain.
He's
Oh,
Yorker.
right. Okay. Cool. The lady. I feel like we should know people's names if we're going to do a podcast about these things. So I'll brush up on these things. However, the lady that plays Michael Brandon, she is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, my wife is an actress, and I know that some of you here are all involved in that world. And she really introduced me to the idea of, you know, there are internal actors and external, you know, people that are kind of pretending, and then there's the real acting of really understanding what your character does know and doesn't know yet, and then kind of responding to it.
So Sonequa Martin Green plays Michael Byrne.
Right. And she is flipping awesome.
Yeah.
Really just a beautiful actress to watch. I don't mean just like, cool, she's beautiful. No, I mean she's a beautiful actress to watch in the way that she's looking at things, and she really doesn't seem to know what's about to happen next, and is genuinely reacting to, you know, what's happening around her. And
So they've kind of upped it a gear, have they?
Yeah,
Well,
the
really
weird thing is,
some heavy acting in. And...
Yeah, now this is my
But
problem
it's
with
set
it.
10 years before the original.
Yeah,
Star
so
Trek.
once again, they made there's this obsession with making prequels, which basically means that if they just set it after all the Star Trek that has been out already, they could go wherever they want with the story. But because they haven't, they've got to bear in mind all the law, all the Star Trek law that comes after it. So, like, if they're going to have the Borg in it, for example, they're going to have some convoluted reason why they meet the Borg, and nobody else gets to meet the Borg.
And the other thing is as well,
Jean-Luc.
there's a technology about this Star Trek that if it was 10 years before Kirk,
Hologram technology,
it would have been kept, right?
Yeah.
And it works,
why is their technology better?
it works at a level. Okay, there's some teething problems, and they're going to iron that out in the first series, and they're definitely going to iron it out in 10 years. And something has to happen, for them to junk that technology.
Yeah, but why?
But they wouldn't.
Why bother?
They wouldn't. They've
They
proven
could
that
still
it's very weird.
They could still junk the technology if it had been set in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I just don't see the point in it, really.
I've noticed a similar thing with these new Alien films. You know, where
Have you seen
Covenant and the Prometheus. I've seen that one. All right. So that one is obviously before Alien, and the whole tech in it, they're unabashedly just like the tech's super swish, super slick. It's like, fuck, what? But you just have to go with it.
Yeah.
You just have to switch off.
But high hopes for it. We'll talk a bit more about it as the series goes on.
The Star Trek. So thumbs up, right?
And although, I think so. And although I'm a month late, I have now seen Alien Covenant.
What did you think?
It's one of those that is, I'm not quite sure why. It's interesting.
Makes money.
It's really interesting.
It's a franchise.
And it is that kind of, okay, this goes to that. And it does arguably answer a couple of questions.
Yeah. It's a Clone War problem.
I'll tell you what, I quite liked watching Covenant, and I came out and think, oh, that's quite good. However, you've just mentioned it now, and it was 3 months ago we went and saw it or something, and I'm struggling thinking, oh yeah, which one was Alien Covenant?
Yeah.
Now, if you said anything about the first Alien,
Yeah.
I could tell you exactly, if you made a quote, I'd probably be able to tell you where it was from or which whereabouts in the film, roughly, and the visual imagery of it, it's really clear in my head. So why isn't Covenant? In many ways it looks better, it's slicker, it's better, it's a better cut, it's got a better score in
Bigger
some ways.
budget.
Yeah, bigger budget, definitely.
But-
Why am I having a moment of, which one was Covenant?
Because it's not made, but it's not original. It's not made by someone that really genuinely cares about it. It's just a thing that makes money. It's
But also the
franchise.
idea of it is always better. So when they talked about the Clone Wars in the original Star Wars, it was like, great, what are the Clone Wars all about? And then we get to see them, they're shit.
There's actually some good stuff in the Clone Wars.
But that's the animation, but I'm talking about Attack of the Clones, for example.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
God.
All right, but we need to move on. Has anyone got any other news they want to bring to the table of news?
No, not really. I watched Free Fire. Anybody seen Free Fire?
No.
That's good.
Great. More from that later. Watch this space. All right, so we're doing a review for you today. We are going to be watching In the Mouth of Madness. So we're gonna stop and go downstairs and watch it now, and then we're going to come back and give you a little review of it.
And I'm not a big fan of horror movies, so this could be a very...
So just before first thoughts, has anyone seen it? I've seen it. I went to the cinema when it was out originally. I've seen it quite a few times. I'm a bit of a fan, so I'm quite pleased that we're going to watch it.
I saw the first 3 minutes of it to check that the Blu-ray that I bought of it was actually in English, even though it has a German title on the box.
It's very hard to get hold of.
That 3 minutes was very good.
Wyndham?
So I saw the trailer. I googled the trailer on YouTube.
Right. Excellent.
And I see. My problem is I don't trust Sam Neill.
Really?
I'm concerned. He plays characters that are wrong-uns.
Yeah.
Event Horizon.
Like
he was in
Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
Did
can't
he let
trust
the
him in
dinosaurs
that.
out?
Even though you know he's the good guy.
Yeah.
There's something like
Yeah,
the second
he's got an
Nazi
edge to him.
general.
You know why?
About
it's
him.
because he played Damien.
That's
in Omen 3.
yeah.
Is that it?
That's
Oh, and
it.
ever since then, it's
Ever
kind of like
since then, we
in your
cannot-
subconscious.
He's
it's like,
really the devil.
Oh yeah, he is the devil. Even when he's playing great people, you're just like, Satan, really?
So Laurie,
Let's
how
go
about
watch
you?
this.
You watched it?
I haven't seen it all the way through. I've seen the beginning. I need to see it soberly, clearly.
What are you going to do today then?
Yeah.
I'll watch it.
Right,
Let's
so
go watch
we're
this
back
stuff.
to this break. All right, cool.
Come on.
Lighthouse Halloween Special.
All right, we're back after watching In the Mouth of Madness, directed by John Carpenter. The writer was Michael DeLuca, and featuring Sam Neill. And just a little fact for everybody before we kick off. One of our listeners, Keb Hully, contacted us and told me that a fun fact is that In the Mouth of Madness was inspired by the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft.
Well, they are.
Right.
It comes as no surprise when you're watching it. It's like H.P. Lovecraft, everywhere, slapped everywhere, isn't it? It's that whole thing.
So first thoughts, Wyndham.
Not quite what I was expecting.
What were you expecting?
Well, I was expecting it to be scary,
Yeah.
and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting it to be quite so spoofy, almost. And I think what confused me is the quality of the copy of the film makes it look much more contemporary than it is. So then when you kind of get into the effects, you kind of go, wow, that is rubbish.
Yeah.
In a really
Nico.
rubbishy way.
I'm gonna. Let me say first of all, I've had a very, very long week, and I'm feeling a little bit exhausted. So that might be part of it. I really struggled to stay awake.
Yeah.
I really found myself going, God, you can do it. You can do it. Come on.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes you hear people talking about, these computer-generated images and graphics, they're just not. They've got no soul, and the weight looks wrong. And I think there maybe is an argument to be said for that sometimes. And particularly when CGI is bad, it's bad. But nobody really comments on it when it's good because it just looks real. The latex animals and creatures and stuff in this were awful. And, they were as bad in The Thing, but because of the action and the dynamism of what's happening in the story, it's like scary and cringy.
Yeah.
But it's also in The Thing. It's okay that it's like that.
The thing is phenomenal. The effects in The Thing are phenomenal.
But
I think they look great.
The effect where the so spoiler alerts clearly here.
Yeah. If we're reviewing it, it's got to be spoiled.
Yeah.
When the old lady who's running the hotel,
Yeah.
you see her with her tentacles and her axe
See, I thought that wasn't too bad.
Well,
I thought that tentacle bit wasn't too bad, but the bit near the end where we've got these real Lovecraft animals coming out
through the tunnel.
It does look really, really bad. But I think through time though, like a lot of people have tried to make Lovecraft films, haven't they? And they always kind of sort of failed because obviously in Lovecraft's writing, it's all tentacles and so otherworldly. It must be a big challenge, but it is a shame because you think of Carpenter, you think of The Thing, and those effects were made like literally with chewing gum and all like weird household products, this, that, and the other, squirts and blobs.
Yeah.
Whereas this seems like they definitely obviously had a budget, but it's just there's no sort of guts and.
So the plot. We should mention the plot really a little bit. So we've got this character. What was his name? John Trent. John Trent, and he's an investigator, an insurance investigator, and he goes on the trail of a missing author, Sutter Kane, and he ends up going into the fiction. Like, what did you say, Laurie? It was.
So he's looking for
a never-ending story for adults.
Grown-ups. A never-ending story because he kind of basically he's looking for Sutter Kane who's vanished. And he finds this kind of sort of secret path to find this place, Hobbs End.
So before we get to Hobbs End, the setup. What do we think of the setup? Did it engage us, or was it like a bit schlonky from the start?
It didn't quite engage. I felt, and there's something about the look and the feel of it, and it's Americana nostalgia. That even though they talk about Sutter Kane at the beginning, he puts Stephen King in the dark. And yet the whole thing kind of made me think quite a bit of Stephen King. As
in his really badly translated book to film approaches. I agree. And it was just... It didn't. It tried to establish its baseline in a really truncated kind of... I'm just telling you this is the baseline kind of approach.
Yeah.
As opposed to showing...
There was an awful lot of exposition all the way through, wasn't it? I am now explaining what's happening for the plot to move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right from the opening as well, Carpenter is the soundtrack is such a big deal for me in Carpenter, and obviously the early films, Halloween, and all that stuff. The Thing.
But with the soundtrack of this, because
this one he's done because that's Carpenter again, but he's doing Metallica. He's bought himself a chorus pedal, and they're off.
Right, and a lot of the sounds are kind of the workstations of the 90s, which all had presets with names like film soundtrack and film score too. Right. And when then you hear those in film scores, and it's like when going back to Bladerunner earlier, when Vangelis was making that, he wasn't using any presets called film score. He was reinventing what films sound like, and so every kind of sound that you hear in the score of Mouth of Madness is a sound you've heard even in adverts, from
the
TV series. There's nothing kind of it's not charming.
No.
Pulling this all back though, I suppose so it definitely doesn't work. I'd say Sam Neill is great in it. He puts in a good performance.
But he's pretty consistent anyway.
He is pretty consistent. It's a bit too clunky. I think if you condensed it, it would be a lot better. I quite like the bit when he's come back from Hobbs End and his character's, he's trying to tell people.
So we'll get to the end of the bit. All right, I went to the cinema to see it, and I loved it at the cinema. But I really have to say I don't think it's aged well. I haven't seen it for years. I'm watching it again today. The cold light of day. Certainly with the effects, which is maybe it's because we watched the Blu-ray. Don't know if that helps.
Maybe we should be watching it in 6 pixels,
But it was cringy a lot of the time, and I couldn't take a lot of the characters seriously. And,
Styles was annoying.
I saw another group of kids.
The kids weren't good.
Speaking kids.
So the thing for me that I've now realised makes a horror movie for me is scary kids. But like properly scary kids, and actually more specifically scary girls. So the twins in the Shining. Any time there's just like some kid with his head slanted slightly, they don't have to do a lot. So when the girl turns up in this, I kind of go, okay, he's now feeding my fear. And then she's got weird pin teeth, and but the bit where she's kind of going, "You're our mother." That had the potential to build, for me anyway, to be freaky, but it didn't do anything. They just wanted their ball back.
Yeah. And there wasn't a lot of sense. I mean, the female protagonist, I can't remember her name.
Linda Stiles.
Linda Stiles. Right, so she gets possessed or taken over by the book or whatever.
Yeah.
She gets pushed into the book, doesn't she? Yeah, I think you missed something. And like the light shot out and then suddenly she was possessed.
Right, yeah.
But so she goes back to the hotel, he comes back and she throws him through the door and then he keeps making an effort to get her in the car.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why would you do that?
Yeah, there's lots of weird bits that don't quite work, is there? There's like loads of flaws, and there's things that said that don't end up meaning anything, and there's loads
of cliches, cliche.
Yeah, there's cliches, and there's loads of jing moments, Bing! But it doesn't make you jump or do anything.
Jump shocks that don't make you jump.
All for me personally, all that said, I still like it and I hold it dear because it's my boy Carpenter, and he says that it's the third part of his Apocalypse trilogy.
What are the other
first part of his Apocalypse trilogy is The Thing. The second is Prince of Darkness, which I also really like. I really like that one. And then this is his third. So the apocalyptic thing, obviously the book's come out, Hobbs End or whatever it's called, and everyone's gone
book's
mad.
in the
The
Mouth of
whole
Madness.
world has gone crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, the book's actually itself, The Mouth of Madness, sorry.
So let's talk a little bit about the end. So Sam Neill gets out of the town and he has to deliver the manuscript, which he keeps trying to destroy. It keeps turning up again.
Yeah.
And then it all goes a little bit meta, doesn't it? You know, he ends up going to watch the film that we're watching in the cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like that.
I really like that.
I really like that. I think it sort of saves it quite a lot, actually. That
Although what would
last
happen
sort
at the end of the film?
He'd be laughing.
It's trapped.
All trailers. Metallica.
The cinema screen would just be a massive mirror.
Yeah.
And he would be laughing at himself laughing in this endless feedback loop.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's the kind of
a happy ending.
Yeah.
Wyn, what did you think at the end? No?
No, well, I don't know. It was the ending felt a little bit like the beginning, that they kind of went, let's do a really short establishing piece and then just explain stuff as we go along. And then the end was almost like, oh, and he's now completely conquers.
Yeah.
Yay! That's madness, folks.
I mean, I suppose the more you think about it, if you pick out the characters like Sutter Kane, you can almost imagine he was, a bit of a bad writer, trying to make it, and then kind of sold his soul to the devil, and then the devil possessed him to write this stuff.
Yeah, but
He
you're
thought he
writing
was
a
being
better version of the
successful.
film
Yeah.
than.
But you can see that you can understand that, like you're talking about the idea of going, should we make this film or not? And
Yeah.
there is some really great stuff in it.
I think the
But
idea
it
is brilliant.
It just clonks.
But
and
if
blunts and-
they'd done less is more with the whole effects and a little bit, I think it was a lot
Yeah.
Yeah, so there were things when you see when you're in the hotel and the old lady is kicking somebody under the counter.
That's her husband.
Yeah, but you just see her this kind of she looks down, boot.
I found all of that
was
a bit
good.
I thought that was a bit Royston Vasey.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
It
there
was.
was quite a bit of that.
Bad, but not as good.
Yeah. They could have made so much more of the town. Yeah, when you say Royston Vasey, like, oh wow, you could have.
So, alright, so is there a problem? Maybe it's just not aged. So, we've seen too much since the film.
No, I don't think it's
Before we do it,
that.
talking about aging, I think
Yeah.
something has to be mentioned about costumes.
Yes, I was going to say
Yeah.
the scariest thing in that film is Sam Neill's costume. The jacket, jean, cowboy boot combo
Yeah.
is a shocker.
Checking, I'm not
No,
lying.
I see, I
And
kinda like it.
obviously women that work in publishing at the beginning, what they're supposed to look like, so it's past the big shoulder pads of the 80s, but before people kind of got a bit more comfortable and relaxed.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what is everybody wearing? They look like they're wearing clothes that are still in boxes. It was really weird to look at these office shots just because of the way people were dressed.
We had some good celebrity cameos. We had David Warner.
Yeah.
Top and tail.
Charlton Heston.
He's always consistently good. Charlton Heston. Consistent.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
pretty
I'm not a big
consistent.
fan of him, but
No,
No,
was
but
there.
he does
Yeah,
what
he
you
was there.
expect
He's a
him
big
to do.
name. Yeah.
Damn it.
He looked sinister. He looked more sinister than some of them. When he looked at the beginning, when he gives Linda Stiles a bit of a kind of peer from under his incredibly
Wyndham is
bushy
now
eyebrows.
doing a kind of furrowed brow.
Yeah.
Which I thought, do you know what? If the end kind of saved it for me a little bit, I was kind of getting a bit full of despair, but it got better at the end.
yeah. I just.
I don't think he got that much better then.
It's hard, to make a really good Lovecraft film. What have we had? From Beyond. Is it called From Beyond?
Yeah.
That's pretty good, but
Yeah.
it probably goes a little bit too much in the perverted. Well, it goes a lot in the perverted space.
Oh, that's all right though.
But yeah, that's all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what other Lovecraft things have done well? I don't know. It had a go. I think when you say about time, it was of its time kind of thing. I don't think that's the flaw with it. I think it's poorly put together. There's lots of holes. There's lots of stuff that.
It was awful when they ripped open a hole and there was like words of the book and stuff.
Yeah, so that's when it really struck me. Wait a minute, this is
like a
the never-ending story for grown-ups.
Words and pictures.
And he peers through the gap and Linda Stiles starts narrating what he's doing because Sutter Kane has written that part for him, and it didn't really work for me.
Sutter Kane is a brilliant name, isn't it? I mean, that is such a good name.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do mine by deed poll. Next week I will be Sutter Kane.
Yeah, nice. It did put me in mind of Stephen King's book, The Dark Half, to a point.
Yes,
it's not quite the same. Stephen King's book, The Dark Half, is about an author who has, very similar to Stephen King, who's written a number of horror novels under a pseudonym. I think the pseudonym's George Stark.
Yes, it is George Stark.
And he kills off his pseudonym. The author kills off his pseudonym, and there's an elaborate staged grave burial, isn't it? A funeral. But the pseudonym comes to life. So it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's about sparrows.
Yeah. No, it's a complete non sequitur. But that would be much better.
Yeah. But not if it was made into a film, because
nobody makes his films very well.
Alright, so final thoughts before we do the scoring.
For me, I would say because it's part of that apocalyptic Carpenter trilogy, I'd say if you're a fan of Carpenter, just watch it. Do him a favour. There's some good stuff in it. Sam Neill's pretty good. I mean, Sam Neill did a film called Possession as well, which again is a very odd film, but that one works. Really, really works. But this film is quite hard to get your hands on, so if you get the chance to watch it, just watch it. That's what I would say.
My thoughts on it are something that you mentioned, that it was a sort of never-ending story for adults, and I really felt that it was never-ending.
And considering it was bang on 90 minutes, it felt a lot longer than that.
It did for longer than
I mean, it's fair to say, Nico, you even left the room for a minute or so.
Pretending you had stuff to do.
Yeah. I'm just going to check this has been recorded properly.
Win?
Yeah, no, I'm of a like mind to Nico on this one. If somebody gives it to you, and no, not even then.
Not even then. Okay.
Well, now that we live in a world where you probably have Netflix and Amazon videos and stuff like that, chances are you're not going to be stuck with nothing to do but watch a DVD.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So
I don't think it was that bad.
Yeah,
I don't think we need to go down that. I mean, it's the last thing I have
That's
in
not
the
what I'm
world.
saying.
I'm just to watch it.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, available to most people with an internet connection right now are probably better ways to spend your evening.
Absolutely, but I think if someone got hold of that story and the script and maybe improved it a lot, it could make a really good film.
Yeah, it's not sellotaped together right. It's just bits.
All right, so we're gonna mark it out of 100. We're gonna start with Nico and go round. So you get to mark it each out of 100, and then we'll make a percentage. I'm gonna work out the percentage.
Okay, I'm gonna go for 23.
Ooh.
It's a nice
Pretty
number,
harsh.
23. I like 23.
All right.
So I'll go for 60.
That's a bit more respectable. I feel a burden because I kept going on about how good this film was, but it was a long time ago.
I just think it should be seen.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm wondering if you're going to mark it up or down because of that. You know? You're going to try and sort of cover your ass and say, no, I think it's a 90.
No, I'm going to be fair.
There's good bits in it.
I just didn't find it engaging, so I'm going to have to go for a 15. I wouldn't recommend somebody spend their time watching it.
Okay, well, I'm not going to go quite that low, but it wasn't as good as I remember, so I'm going to give it a 43.
Oh, blimey. Poor mouth of madness. I feel bad for it.
I know, but I mean, we've got to be honest. So, I am just going to top up the scores.
This is now James doing mental arithmetic live on podcast.
That divided by that.
Okay, so it's
You have
45-ish.
No,
Don't give it away.
This will be in the advert, the trailer. This is the trailer.
Always. Okay, so by the power of maths, we've got a rating out of 100. In the Mouth of Madness rates 45.2.
Yeah! Not too bad.
Well, it's number 1 on the leaderboard.
Yeah!
Probably be the only time it ever is. But
Yeah.
all right, so that's our review of In the Mouth of Madness. Hope you enjoyed it. We now have the exciting task of deciding what we're going to do for next time's podcast. So, Nico, you get the honour of choosing this month.
Have we got your balls?
What we're going to do? I've got my balls. So,
Are we going for a specific year or?
You'll
do you
see.
remember how we do this?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
All right, so I have.
And we have to feel the balls first.
Yeah,
don't
you've
we?
got to fill my balls. You can choose the ball.
Okay. Just one.
Sorry, just
For
one.
listeners out there, he's going deep inside the
Yeah.
Sorry,
side,
Dee.
plucking the ball.
Okay, and what number have we got?
We have number 16.
Okay.
Fine number. Good number.
number.
Strong number.
16. All right. It's another 90s. We are going to be looking at the year 1996.
Right.
All right, so
Just 2 years on.
yeah.
Okay.
So let's make our choices, and Nico will get back to you.
Lighthouse Halloween Special.
So Nico, you get the choice, the big choice of choosing a movie for next.
I can't wait to hear what you guys have come up with.
1996. So Laurie, you get to make the choice first.
David Cronenberg.
You're not what?
What?
Sorry, go on.
Crash.
Oh yeah, good one. Good one.
Okay.
Do I just stop there?
Wyndham?
So I am going to go for From Dusk Till Dawn.
Excellent. Yep.
I'm going to go for a film that changed the genre of horror.
Ooh.
Scream.
Ah. Right, okay.
Oh, right. Okay. So we've got something a bit out there, with Crash. We've got something quite left field and.
Not really a horror film.
Really good.
It is.
And a lot to talk about.
If I remember, it was a good film. I mean, we are going back a few years here, but I do remember it being pretty good. Then, of course, we've got all the excitement and the
And it's like
in your
3 movies in one.
Yes, isn't it? That's so true.
It's a real
It
bang for
is.
your buck.
Yeah,
It's a good film.
and that is a good film.
Not quite
So
as good as
that's
Scream,
Dusk Till
though.
Dawn.
Which kind of changed the whole genre.
It did, and it was a big commercial, number. Which, God, this is a really tough choice. I think.
Be brave. Come on.
Do you know? I think I'm going to go for Crash.
Yes!
I think I'm going to go for Crash.
Good man.
I
Do
just
you
think
know
it's-
what happened last time he chose a film?
I know, and I'm sure we'll regret it. But there's something to sink your teeth into there.
Really
Whereas
is.
I think we'll have more of a ride with Dusk Till Dawn. To be honest, no offences to.
Can I just check? Is Crash, does it fall into our remit?
Yeah, completely. It's cold.
Sci-fi.
Yeah, it's sci-fi in a way. And there's horror.
All right, you win. Right, so next month it's Crash. So please, 1996 Crash, watch it and then listen to our wonderful review. Thank you for everybody for following us on Twitter and sending us messages on email. Our Twitter handles at Movie Lighthouse, and our email address, if you want to send us a message, please send us a message because we'll read them out.
Yeah, go on.
Is movielighthouse@gmail.com. And also, please rate and review us on iTunes because we need to do better than we're doing.
We're not doing too bad.
We're doing all right,
Come
but it'd be
on.
nice to do better. It'd be nice to be number 1.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's my
Great.
That's my own.
Does it still currently say not enough ratings to have a rating?
No, we've got
okay.
ratings. We've got quite a few listeners, but we need more. So tell your friends, or the people you don't like. Tell them.
Love you, Chicken for Sandra. So yeah, we'll
Fucking
definitely
shout
watch the Last Unicorn. We'll definitely get on that.
That'll be
promise.
Christmas, right? So Laurie, you wanted to do something before
Well, I
we finish.
want to do something. I'm looking out the window. There's a season out there, and we're coming up to. You're dropping in now. Halloween. yeah, that kind of thing.
Scary
So,
Halloween
it's
sounds.
Halloween. It's Halloween. So I'm just interested to know if any of you guys kind of have a favourite kind of go-to Halloween film or a few kind of things that you would say you maybe this year you're planning to watch? I don't know. But yeah.
Shall I go?
Yeah.
Okay, so growing up as a kid, I loved Hellraiser.
Yeah.
As a film. That was a proper, this is like scary, there's supernatural, it's people with nails in their heads. Pretty freaky
horrible
stuff. And it's its 30th birthday this year, I think, and they're doing a cinema re-release, small-scale cinema re-release of it. So maybe that could be a school trip sometime. But the other one I've watched this year, and this is also a mention to a friend of the podcast and friend of ours, Jasper Graham, executive produced a horror film called Pontypool back in 2008. And I watched it this year. Sorry, Jasper, it took me 9 years. But it's really interesting. It's set in a tiny little village in Canada, and it's set in a radio studio, so you've got that kind of restricted geography, and the world is going to crap outside, and you end up finding out some stuff in it that it's just really, I can't give it away, but it's really interesting. But it conforms to my version of what a horror has to have. It has a scary girl in it, and it's good. It's worth a watch. Pontypool.
And you're watching that at Halloween, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
yeah, because it's a horror.
Brilliant. Mine's probably similar to yours, Laurie. It's Halloween 3. Love Halloween 3. It's brilliant. It's just completely different to all the other Halloweens. And it's horrible. It's proper nasty. Nasty.
There's a very, very nasty scene in it. It's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant film.
Yeah.
I'd agree with you. I think for Halloween, for me, I just get really cosy. It's that whole season, we're moving into sort of darkness. So I want a film that's got sort of chocolate in it, or the season itself in it, or Halloween in it, actually in the film itself. So mine obviously would be Halloween. That one, and then Halloween 3, but then also The Exorcist as well is a big favourite. I like watching at Halloween because you have that whole scene when Tubular Bells kicks in and you got the children running around. So, yeah, that.
I think now that you mentioned The Exorcist, as a kind of a running theme, I find films about exorcisms and possession just with scary little girls and stuff like that. There's something about demonic possession.
Yeah,
and
that is a scary girl.
Yeah, and that is a proper scary girl. Yeah. But there are lots of films kind of along those lines. And some of them don't even have to be like outright scary possession. And one film that the original film version of The Amityville Horror, I think has got a really good demonic kind of scary vibe to it. Yeah. And as someone that isn't a religious person,
scary
the idea of upside down crosses being scary, it should mean absolutely nothing to me. And yet I'm like, oh my God, that cross was right a minute ago, now it's upside down. And there's flies in the room, there's flies!
Yeah.
And why would that be scary? And yet the tension and the build-up of it. And they made a remake of it not that long ago, I say not that long ago, 10 years ago or something. And it was all better, and it looked better, and the colour was more vivid, and it was like, yeah, all right, whatever. The old version,
get out!
Yeah, get out! It was brilliant, it was really creepy. So I might suggest that. Having said that, we were talking about...
That's a brilliant call. I haven't watched that in a long, long time. I am watching that this Halloween.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Brilliant. Also, I've got a family, and I've got kids, and I would like to watch something that's kind of a bit scary with the kids, but about as scary as a good episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And so if anybody's got any suggestions about anything like that, either here in this room, or if any of you listeners want to let us know about that, anything that I could watch with the family that's a bit Halloween-y, but I'm not then going to have to pay thousands of pounds in therapy for the kids. Yes. Would be great.
I want to know that too. I'm in the same pickle. I was thinking Beetlejuice. Is it Beetlejuice?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I think we'll do that
that
conversation another time because I want to go home. So, well done everyone. Have a happy Halloween wherever you are. And I've been James.
I'm Nico.
Laurie.
And I've been Wyndham.
Yes.
Next time to watch a film that isn't a horror or sci-fi or anything else besides
it's
about auto crash eroticism.
Rip up the remit.